and 5 children of the Boulder, Colorado terror suspect are now in the custody of ICE and are being processed for expedited removal, allowing for rapid deportation without a hearing before an immigration judge. The suspect, an Egyptian national accused of launching Molotov cocktails into a crowd at a pro-Israel gathering, overstayed a tourist visa and temporary work permit granted under the Biden administration. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Monday posting, in light of yesterday's horrific attack, all terrorists, their family members, and terrorist sympathizers here on a visa should know that under the Trump administration, we will find you, revoke your visa, and deport you. In an interview with investigators, the suspect saying he left a phone at his home with messages to his family. Authorities recovered the phone from the residence with cooperation from the suspect's wife. The suspect, Mohammed Salaman, reportedly told police he, quote, wanted to kill all Zionist people and said he would conduct the attack again if he could. He's now charged with a federal hate crime and 16 state counts, including attempted murder. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem on Tuesday posting this video on X.
We're also investigating to what extent his family knew about this horrific attack, if they had any knowledge of it, or if they provided support to it. Justice will be served.
We will continue tracking the story. The FBI's top 2 officials saying last week they believe disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein did in fact kill himself. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino have not been shy in their pre-government life about demanding answers in the Epstein case.
You know, it's the same thing with Epstein's list. It's like, what the hell are these Republicans doing? I don't care about the list itself, but if you release the names, right? What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
Epstein is alleged to have videos of with a lot of these famous people, and yet it's the craziest thing. You don't hear anything about this.
Now that they're number 1 and 2 at the FBI, they are not mincing words. They say they've looked at all the facts that Epstein took his own life and that there's zero evidence to the contrary.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide.
As someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Epstein died in prison in August 2019. The Justice Department saying at the time it was a suicide, a claim doubted by many, including Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein, who told us he still has more questions than answers.
I'd like to see what they have seen to make him come to this determination, because everybody that's seen the facts that I've been able to get my hands on thinks it was a homicide. People that did the actual autopsy, they came out of the autopsy room saying that they couldn't call it a suicide because it looked too much like a homicide. And then a few days later, Dr. Sampson, who was the chief pathologist in New York, she determines it was a suicide and has yet to determine or to state what made her come to that conclusion after the 2 pathologists that actually did the autopsy couldn't call it a suicide. The day of the autopsy, on the initial death certificate, the cause of death said pending further study. Most pathologists I talk to say that when it says pending further study, you usually don't get an answer for weeks because they're studying, they're investigating. What study was done for her to change it?
Mark hired famed pathologist Dr. Michael Baden to conduct an autopsy of his brother Jeffrey. Baden said the findings were more consistent with homicide than with suicide. The New York City chief medical officer concluded it was a suicide, that Epstein hanged himself. Mark has not made any requests of Trump 2.0, but says his many previous asks over the years have gone unfulfilled.
Why I can't get the video footage that I'm requesting? Why I can't get the medical records from the hospital? I'm the next of kin. I'm the only next of kin. These medical records should be available to me. This doesn't pass the laughter. What happened to the PCR report? We know the EMTs were there because there's a photograph of them taking Jeff out of the prison on a gurney. They take him to the hospital, and he's intubated. He has a neck brace on, and he's intubated. They're squeezing like an air balloon to put air into his lungs. Now, we know from the autopsy he was dead for at least 2 hours. So the question is, why were they putting on this charade to make it look like he was alive or revivable? None of this makes sense.
The camera inside the cell block where Epstein was kept was mysteriously non-functioning at the time. though officials say it had been broken since before Epstein was housed there. The guards outside of the cell say they were surfing the net and later fell asleep rather than checking on Epstein every 30 minutes as required. Deputy Director Bongino says there is videotape that will be released very soon, showing that no one entered or even approached Epstein's cell, that Epstein was clearly alone. But Mark Epstein has another theory.
The tier is you go into a door and you face like a long corridor, and you can see 4 cells on either side of the corridor. It's 4 on the left, 4 on the right. Jeff was alone in his cell, and I don't think all the other cells were full. So I think there were somewhere like 11 to 12 other inmates. What I would like to know is who they are, when did they get there, and where are they now? Because if Jeff was killed, he was either killed by somebody on the tier, or he was killed by the unnamed guards when they locked up the tier at 10 o'clock at night. And I've been told through a source that cell doors were left unlocked that night. So somebody could have went from one cell to another, killed somebody, and gone back into their cell, and it was done. You didn't have to go in and out of the tier.
Among the video Mark is seeking, footage from the infirmary where Epstein's body was taken after discovery of his death.
And they were supposed to get the medical examiner there, but they violated all codes and they moved them to the infirmary. I also would like to see the video footage by the infirmary, because we know there's cameras all over that place. Who was directing the show there? When I asked for that footage, they initially told me they couldn't give it to me because it was part of an ongoing investigation. That was, a few years ago. Now that the investigation is over, now they're saying that the cameras that were working don't show that area. That's the last excuse I got. First, they couldn't show it to me because it was part of the investigation. And now the last comment was the cameras don't show that area. This doesn't pass the laugh test.
We reached out to the FBI for comment but did not hear back. We will update the story as soon as that videotape is made public. Coming up, the security guard who took money to delete that infamous tape of Sean Diddy Combs beating star witness Cassie Ventura at the Intercontinental Hotel takes the stand. And weeks after the New York Times reports that fentanyl labs are disappearing in Mexico thanks to Trump's tariffs, the Washington Post questions why fentanyl seizures are dropping at the border. Caroline Levitt provides a fact check. The criminal trial was The first witness called to the stand Tuesday in the Sean Diddy Combs criminal trial was former security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel, Eddie Garcia, who was granted immunity to testify. Garcia testifying to being alerted to a domestic dispute on March 5th, 2016, the day of the now infamous moment showing a towel-clad Combs caught on security footage, knocking star witness Cassie Ventura to the floor, then kicking, hitting, and dragging her. Garcia saying when he initially watched the footage, he did not recognize Combs or Ventura, but later learned of their identities. Garcia testifying he understood that law enforcement was not called to the scene because, quote, Ms. Ventura did not request the presence of police or medical attention. Garcia testifying that Combs's then chief of staff, Christina Coram, asked if there was a way to view the video because, quote, Mr. Combs had been intoxicated and didn't remember. The witness testifying he directed Coram to hotel management or to get a subpoena, but he told her, quote, off the record, it's bad. Garcia saying later that night, Coram called the security desk again, this time putting Combs directly on the phone. According to Garcia, Combs sounded very nervous, saying he'd had too much to drink. He knew how bad the video was, and if it got out, it would ruin Combs's career. Garcia attesting to also referring Combs to either hotel management or to the subpoena process, then writing up the phone call in an email to his general manager and the head of security. The witness saying later that night when he was home, he got another call, this time on his personal cell phone, from Coram, who again passed the phone to Combs. Garcia saying, quote, he stated that I sounded like a good guy, that I sounded like I wanted to help, that something like this could ruin him. Combs then offering to take care of Garcia, which Garcia took to mean financially. The witness testifying to calling his boss about the video, his boss telling Garcia they could get Combs the video for $50,000. The next day, Garcia's boss provided him with a thumb drive containing the footage, and Garcia delivered it to Combs. Garcia attesting Combs was, quote, smiling, excited, just looked happy. Combs referring to Garcia as Eddie, my angel. Combs asked for assurance that the video on the thumb drive was the only copy. Garcia then contacting his boss, who assured Combs it had been removed entirely from the server. Garcia says he expressed concern to Combs about what might happen if Ventura later filed a police report. Quote, he said I didn't have to worry about that she knew about it and she wanted the video gone too. Combs FaceTiming Ventura, who then told Garcia directly she had a movie coming out and she wanted this to go away. Combs then asking Garcia to sign a non-disclosure agreement, stating Garcia would pay $1 million if the video was leaked. Garcia says Combs counted out $100,000 in cash, Garcia assuming $50,000 for his boss and $50,000 to split between Garcia and another guard. Garcia testifying that he split the money with the other security officer on duty after the incident. He said Combs likely believed that he was buying off not only Garcia, but the guard with whom Combs initially dealt after the beating, Israel Flores. Unfortunately for Combs, Mr. Flores did not take any money, but did make his own video of the security footage. Garcia said that when the video resurfaced in 2024, originally obtained by CNN, he was questioned by law enforcement, but was not initially honest about his own involvement. The witness saying he was later appointed legal counsel, and only then did he disclose that Combs had paid him for the tape. On Saturday, the Washington Post reporting on, quote, the mysterious drop in fentanyl seizures on the U.S.-Mexico border. From the piece, quote, after years of confiscating rising amounts of fentanyl, U.S. officials are confronting a new and puzzling reality at the Mexican border. Fentanyl seizures are plummeting. The report vaguely citing, quote, some security officials who think cartels could be seeking ways to get around border security forces. Other possible theories from the article, a war within two factions of the Sinaloa cartel, or a shortage in fentanyl ingredients. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt offering another explanation at a Tuesday press conference.
On the topic of immigration, the Washington Post just ran one of the most ridiculous headlines ever, the mysterious drop in fentanyl seizures on the U.S.-Mexico border. How is this mysterious? There is no mystery about why there is a decrease in fentanyl coming into the United States. This administration's strong border policies are the reason there has been a decrease in fentanyl trafficking. His strengthened relationship with Mexican President Sheinbaum and all of the measures he has been taking to deter illegal human and drug trafficking at our United States southern border is the reason for plummeting fentanyl seizures at the U.S. border. There is nothing mysterious about that, and we'd like to see the Washington Post update their headline accordingly. Our office responded to this inquiry. We provided a whole host of the reasons that fentanyl seizures at the southern border have dropped, and the Washington Post refused to run them, and that's despicable.
The Post only including this comment from the White House in its report, quote, the White House says the drop is thanks to President Trump's policies empowering law enforcement officials to dismantle drug trafficking networks. While the Washington Post remains befuddled at the drop in fentanyl seizures, even its progressive counterpart up north, the New York Times, reported months ago that Mr. Trump's tariffs on Mexico caused President Sheinbaum to crack down on fentanyl labs, which were promptly drying up in Mexico. Reporting the Washington Post appears to have missed. And that'll do it for your AM update. I'm Megyn Kelly. Join me back here for The Megyn Kelly Show, live on SiriusXM Triumph Channel 111 at noon East, on youtube.com/Megyn Kelly, and on all podcast platforms.